tough for Bilibili. They have to rally back. Don't go anywhere. This Trans-Pacific Clash is delivering and Proxus 2 on Lotus. After this.
Cuk.
Satu sama.
Iya.
Gak ada DPS cuma 2 bangsat. Mana Dit?
Bruh. Audio ini cacat.
Iya, sorry.
Kok ada suarane?
Going down early, it gets quiet. But in that last map, let me tell you, this team was locked in. It is very clear that they've been focusing on that. And Zellsis in particular has been very pivotal in calling it out when he sees it. When there's a round where he doesn't like how the communication has been going down, he has called that out and the team has locked in immediately. What we've also seen is a lot of Sentinels having weaker defensive halves and then crushing on the attack. And let me tell you, that is a John QT masterclass. This guy has a great read on what the other team is doing and is adapting beautifully in the mid rounds. He is fully in control on that side. Now, there's one more thing I want to check in on with the comms, but this is for the pre-map here. We've got the rest of Sentinels here. Who's winning map number 3? Sentinels! All right, let's send it up to the desk.
Thank you very much to Ender for that update. And in case you guys didn't pick up what he said, was Zellsis was very pivotal in terms of giving some ideas on that map as well. And you heard it from Coach Kaplan after map 1. He was a little bit disappointed that Sen didn't play like a team, but Mel, we saw so much incredible team play on that Sunset to bring them to a map 3.
And Zellsis is so crucial to that because he is able to hold people accountable in a way where everyone is uplifted instead of degraded. And he's always the one that is able to call these mistakes out and bring everyone up to that level. And I'm really impressed because there's so much team play required when they go into all these retakes that we saw them get into. I think it was 4 retakes out of 6 they won on the A site. And to have that, it's so important because on defense, they were up 7-5 at the half. And that's without pistol.
It's great to see them actually start well, because we saw it against Wolves as well, and the game and the map early against Bilibili, where they actually managed to come out the first half not in a deficit, and it definitely helped as we went into the second one. And Zekken was somebody in the top show that we were a little bit concerned about if he's going to find his form on that stage, but with John QT out here flashing for him, you know, stunning for him, and doing everything for him, he's just managed to play like the Zekken we were expecting on the global stage.
Yeah, this combo and market here was great to watch, but Zekken especially, I'm really happy to see him really arrive in full force on the Neon on this stage. I feel like that, like you said, that was something we were lacking yesterday, but he is such a big part of that win condition. And here, some util, maybe a team blind here, but it's not an issue for Zekken. He's just gonna go in and get that stinger kill regardless. But this is what I wanted to see from him, this aggression and winning these key fights, disrupting the Bilibili gaming when they're setting up for their post plans or setting up for like a mid-round fake. So I'm really happy to see him arrive.
It's so nice to see him find his confidence again, you know, especially with his family in the crowd always supporting him, traveling all the way here as well. This brings them to a map 3, and meaning that suddenly a very, very winnable series for them, especially if he can keep up this sort of performance as we move on to the next one. I'm not gonna lie, every single one of these highlight kills from him and John is ridiculous.
It really is. He's such an exciting player to watch when he's on, and it's always, especially, his Neon is something that rings true in my mind. When I think Zekken, I think Neon, I think Raze, and he always stands up to the occasion when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and when I think John QT, I don't often think Breach, but I'm very happy to think of his Breach now after that performance as well. On Lotus, however, we don't have to speculate what they're gonna play. We've seen it already. Did you like what we saw of their Lotus yesterday?
Oh, I will sing John QT's praises of his calling on Lotus all the way back to the bank. I love how Sentinels plays the map. They play it very slow and procedurally, exactly how Lotus should be played, and I think John is a huge part of that. And actually, you bring up Breach. I know he's playing Viper this map, but Breach is actually one of his best agents in the past 60 days, so I really want to shout out the fact that John has really been able to reinvent himself as a player, going from that Senti and now going into so many different initiators. It's really impressive.
I love the 60 days there. You've been counting. In your Canada, you're like, did John play Breach? They check. Did I like it? Check. There you go. Tracking him here. But on the other side, this is where we can start speculating about Bilibili and the fact that Ender is joining us once again here on the desk. Can I send you down to listening to some Bilibili comms?
I don't know.
Yeah?
You know what? I omenoled it up here. I can omenol back over there and listen on Bilibili.
How good's your Mandarin? You got this?
It's not great, but I could tell you if it's calm or chaotic.
Oh, okay.
You know?
We'll send you down. We'll send you down. But yeah, what about Bilibili's Lotus? What can we expect?
Honestly, that's a good question. I think what Bilibili need to do is make sure they're seizing like information and control of the map in the mid rounds, especially with how slow John's calling was. If you were talking about this, forgive me, because I know this is something you were talking about earlier in the day.
Oh,
with how
no worries. I will never interrupt. You hyping up John QT's calling. I'll never stop you.
No, but honestly, I was really impressed with his reads in that last map, and I think that with the sort of like slower macro style that he would like to play and sort of punish the extremities of the map, I think it's very important for BLG to like make sure they're maintaining forward lines of information, holding those forward angles so they don't get punished by, you know, a late lurk into a Zelsis or someone.
And as you saw here a little bit earlier in that lower third, if Sen win this map, they make their first Masters playoffs since Madrid. And we all know how Madrid went. Well, it wasn't bad for a Sentinels fan, was it?
No, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was alright. It was alright. There was no bracelet though, so I think maybe this time around they can go for that bracelet, go for that MVP. Exactly. And it all starts here. They have to win Lotus here. The momentum is back on their side. Can they do it? Can they give the fans here something to cheer for?
I think what I was seeing on that second map, absolutely they can. But I also like the vibe I'm getting from Sentinels is that they are a little bit driven by momentum, you know, and it can be hard to come back after falling down early. I've heard it a lot, right? When like players go down early on in rounds, it can kind of become a little bit quiet in terms of their comms, and there's not always someone carrying the mantle. Now, today and in that last game, Zelsis was the guy that was stepping up in a big way, but he has to also be feeling that and bringing the vibes if they're going to be able to build off of that.
A big part of having that momentum shift is having people like Zelsis who can problem solve and help the IGL, because it's 4-8. You know, some people might shut in because they're afraid to have an idea and afraid to be wrong. But going into Lotus, I'm interested to see if there's any comp changes, but not expecting anything too crazy.
No, not at all. But the mantra for Sen that I've been hearing in the comp, stay calm, stay calm.
UI ในวันนะ
That
ฮะ
is everything that they're focusing on right now.
However, though, for Bilibili, they are locking in their picks already. Anything you can do, we can do better.
I like it. Little mirror action going on here. I'm a big fan of the Vi's coming in and getting more and more play on this map. It is so effective at stalling down the heavy exec play.
And I think Zelsis flies really under the radar, underrated in my opinion on these roles, on this anchor agent. I think his Vice is really good. He strikes a good balance of knowing when to play very close to his util and punish people who are trying to bait out that Vice wall that we see so often. And he knows when he should really play back. And his positioning on these sides, I feel like a lot of players can really learn from.
For the very first time that we're seeing Bilibili play this comp, but only one can advance to playoffs. Uber and Wyatt, take it away.
The prevailing narrative for the road ahead for Sentinels coming into this game, why it was 3 playoffs. You guys have got it. You guys have the easiest run, etc., etc. But this series has been anything but. Icebox, brutal for Sen. They never got going. They could never get the start they were looking for. But their pick of Sunset still proved to be one of their best. Stunning performance. Now sets us up for a decider map for the first spot for these teams in a Masters Toronto playoffs. And it all goes down on Lotus.
Sentinels played a lovely defensive side against Wolves the other day, going up 9-3. Typically, the somewhat less favored side, especially when we're going back to this kind of old meta, old Lotus look that's just integrating Vice, who has been unbelievably powerful as a mainstay Sentinel on this map. I like that Bilibili have gone for this. I think it's a great comp right now, and it's always fun to see Zekin back on the agent that he made his name with years ago.
ดีลากีปะ
It looks dynamic.
แต่ตัว
A
งู
bit slow to start in that Wolf series. That was not the story for Sentinels on Sunset, not by any stretch.
ปีศาจดีมาก
Alright, here Prowler on the corner. Zekin plays off of it stunningly. That's Knight down. Sees to follow up with the nade. Already though, BLG have pulled the plug on that big foray into Tree, though Nev is unsupported.
Just praying to find some kind of timing through door, but that is being watched by not just one player, 2. This shear is about to be activated, double push past it. They want to fight these players. Nade is going to do some damage, swing out
No,
from
spike it
Levius.
drop.
That was a spike in this Zelsis.
Oh, he just headbutts that bullet. Narrates handing out 3 haircuts. And again, Bilibili have Neff walk up into Tree, which traditionally, with his Vice comp, you see Zelsis sometimes go set up his arc rows and his util there, just headlong into it.
จริงปะแต่
God, that is sick from Zelsis, or Zekin rather, that reaction time. And Neff just feels so pressured that he has to give even more space towards A. He's allowed the team to go for a pivot back after they lose that initial player.
Thank you for saving me. Zelsis carry game.
Hey, and if there was ever to be a map where we get a Zelsis carry game, well, first of all, he was playing very intelligently back on Icebox. He was great there so far in this series. But Vice on Lotus early this year is where he had some of his best games we've seen from him, if not his best all year up until this point.
Zelsis this time at the seaside. And they're trying to chase Bilibili off this mound position, and Zekin's inching forward. Here comes a hit. Razorline comes out, going to be avoided by Wisey. Extreme low. Wisey! It's not a molly, but close enough. John down though. Rushi's having to deal with him with that classic. Levius has got some sharp shooting.
Untuk luruh.
What is this? Dominating.
Wah, ada gila-gilanya Levius.
On that B-side. Utter pandemonium. And Zelsis here, of course, is a beat behind the action. Rushia makes the turn, sees him come.
แต่ว่า
Even at that, he gets the dig onto him double face. Zelsis, there's no hope.
เจ๊สังกัด
Okay,
ตัวกัน
well,
ดู
welcome to the show. Everything's made up. The points
Thrifty
don't
done.
It's a MasterCard Thrifty in the second round for Bilibili. Bizarre.
Someone said, YZ, nade yourself. He just jumps into it in the corner. What is happening? How are they able to convert this? The shots from Levius were
For my next drink, I'll
disgusting.
catch my
Penuh
own name.
granat
What
itu.
is second? He satchels out in one tap. Narrate can't trade. I think he had a bulldog. He can't see me! This is ridiculous! I mean, listen, you're hoping when you're a Sentinel, you play B. Maybe you cut off a rotate, you get someone maneuvering towards C. You're usually not getting 3 with the Ghost on your eco.
The third while you are blinded, by the way. Well, that didn't make a lot of sense, but that's fine.
Oh my god. Alright, Zelsis is alone towards A right now. Playing in the dark cover, hoping someone may take a little stroll into it, but that's not going to be the case. YZ timings it though to get in the next one with this judge.
Got John's weapon from the previous round, and he's decently set up for this, but Razor Vine's going to slow him up. Rochier though, not so fetid. He's able to push
Aduh.
ahead. Make sure
Wah, anjir,
here are
mantap.
Sentinels into the grind. They've become mulch here on Lotus.
Well, they were stacked up on the proper side, but BLG were just overwhelming with the numbers, with the superior weapons, not really able to get anything done at all. Bang left on his lonesome, probably just going to eventually perish to the spike. Looked like Sen were just going to carry all of that momentum they had from such a dominating performance on Sunset into Lotus. On defense again. That's what they did to Wolves just the other day, but Billy are right back in the game.
And you can't account for a bizarre thrifty like the one we just saw. That's definitely throwing things for a bit of a loop. And that individual talent on Billy, it's really easy to spot.
Yeah. It feels like, you know, throughout this series, maybe, I guess, save for Sunset, any player on this team has just pulled out some magic individually as far as being a shooter with the mechanics, you know, specifically on Icebox. Even the guys who had less kills total when Rusha and YZ were taking over, Levius was still finding moments to hit some snappy multi-kills. Neff has been playing well. Alright, full buy here for Sen after what was looking like a great start, then went disastrous on round 2. Let's see if they can wrangle control of this defensive side. A couple players will be trying to get out towards Mound, but Ben can take a forward position to teleport away.
Bang wants this Mound fight until he doesn't. Paranoia comes in, forces him out. He's able to TP away and just get up onto the side.
Don't have any utility left. YZ already used that nade, so no real pressure.
I don't know.
Bang when they know he's been routed into Bend.
Not ready yet.
Flash from Levius is going to get the information that Zekken has pushed up towards B main. Someone is playing close. In the meantime, you have Neff taking a lot of space towards A. You know, already you're seeing some differences on this attack side from BLG compared to Wolves, where Neff is able to take a lot of space. Spring wasn't really able to do that the other day.
But here's the look. YZ, no blast packs here. So no fast hit. Behind the Prowler,
kena, anjir.
plenty of util left for K9. Zekken just trying to play his life as well as he can here through Arpa, but that snake bite is going to make it, in theory, a little bit more challenging. Just bank a nade here. Response, oh, the C's as well. Rochier, though, is able to get clear of the blast. That combo fizzles.
BLG can't take too much forward space, but they have a couple players in Baby Door right now. Things could get awkward. Sen can dump so much utility on them right now.
They do. Rochier near side of Zekken with one paltry point of health is able to get his, and Narrate found double. Levius is squeezed up on the side. Rochier is
Ya
still
Allah.
there, trying to crouch, trying to hide away, trying to live.
Oh, weave.
Instead of having none of it. Bouncing back into pole position. A B-side retake. 2 guns still to carry out of the round.
That was a real opportunity for Levius, but the spray was haphazard on that entry from Heaven. I mean, BLG do a good job getting into the light side. Oh, yeah, you know, they get the spike down, but they just can't get forward. There's no real opportunity to do so. The option there was we just have to take a timing to swing out of this smoke on the wall together rather than in front of the wall. But Sen were overwhelming in that situation. You know, I think earlier as well, Neff was feeling more confident to take a lot of that space off A, because what we saw on defense was Narrate, Bang. That was a duo that was pressed up on Rubble together, but when you know Bang is at Mound, it feels like, oh, this might be my opportunity to go. It's going to be a bit lighter, but it's not like this round. Sen have 3 players ready to go. Nade, sees, caught right onto Rusha. He has to teleport to safety.
Took some damage off that though, didn't he? Just a lick though. Zekken's able
Ya
to
ampun.
get back. Why is he dealt with? Bang has the TP out of what could have been a pretty hostile situation, and so the rubber fight goes very poorly for Billy. There's a pause in the action almost, as it sees nade combo came in. And And from now on, Bilibili have to account for that threat. I have to TP across the rubble, maybe not up.
They're able to get so much value playing around that tree position with the Guardian. Eventually, I'm sure he's going to try to pick up the Odin as well. What can BLG do here? As Sen are more than content to just play this nice and slow and go for the retake when they need to.
Second sees is coming. K9 attempts a wide swing, but second looking comfortable. Strips Neff down to 16 health. Levis has already earned that steel garden. That spike is dropped just outside of Baby Door. It's going to be a very difficult recovery mission.
Well, this round looks like it's destined to come to a slow crumble for BLG, who will have enough to continue the pressure, buying up on the next round fully. This is well done from Sen. They've been able to get to a couple of crucial ultimates for the next buy round too. They've got the Showstopper and the Nightfall, so they've got many tools to use to try and extend their lead.
We've seen the variations from Sen on this defense side. Quite often the action is where Bang himself is. They fight over at rubble. The Omen's there. They make an early foray for Mount Control. Bang is also in position. So they've been varying, moving across the map. Here's this rubble fight. I see, yeah, TP back, of course, towards him by Bang, and he's able to punish second.
One enemy
Sits and waits for them to step on up.
Gotta say as well, Sen, so far we're barely into this Lotus map, but man, they've gone for a lot of season 8s. That one back rubble is pretty standard, but they used it in B-main as well very early on. I think that was on the pistol, so that's going to cause a lot of concern that at any point, if you're a Bilibili player, you could be getting hit by that usual combo. They want to get this early A control again. It's just that aforementioned duo of Narrate and Bang playing towards Tree. They are often just in tandem on this A site, playing together, controlling that space.
You're going to see this duo of John and Zekken start to favor the A side of the map as it was a more passive showing from Sentinels early. But Bilibili have decided just to make their way towards this C side. It's just going to be the Vice and Util occupying that side, and Celsius, as a result, playing safer here.
Sen have gone for a full re-clear through rubble. In the meantime, Bilibili slowed down at the moment by some of that defensive utility, waiting out the cloud. They're going to have to burst in. Ultimate from YZ. Celsius is out in the open, and he's caught traded, though.
That sheer wall, though, is in play. This is slowing Bilibili down. Now, though, it drops. They're able to push here over towards Bend.
There are going to be so many ultimates involved in this retake. Zekken can get back in with the Showstopper, with this Nightfall at the same time. Steel Garden, though, hoping to make it so that Sen can't scale off of their own ultimate.
It has definitely slowed Sentinels down. Not confident, of course, without their primaries to push him, but Zekken doesn't need it. Oh, that's awkward.
What?
Push here with him at the very least. Odds are evened. John steps up. 2 players here out of Waterfall for Sentinels, and they see the shoulder of Night. The double high-low stack, though, is tough for them to break. John knows Neff is around the corner, and he doesn't have the health to withstand an engagement. Bilibili, it's a scrappy fight, but they occupy that seaside and hold on.
Both Showstoppers just earning trades. Celsius does good work to go 1-for-1 against YZ. That Steel Garden was the antidote to that retake, stacked with ultimates for Sen coming through, and Rush is able to also get Zekken in time before the rocket connects. Highly important. It's a nice little triple sack up phase. Everyone on Bilibili ready to fight together to close things out.
This time it's a look towards B. Viper's Pit on C already laid down, so Sentinels adamant about locking this part of the map away from Bilibili's purview. They're not fully convinced though.
Look at this investment for YZ. He's going for the operator right now on attack. Just trying to push up on some of these angles towards B, but that Viper wall will keep him at bay temporarily. This certainly implies that Bilibili want to maybe slow down the game. I mean, Zekken is just caught spamming through with a stinger. At least Bang there for the trade back rubble.
Mark, though, has to get out. And for Sen, happy enough with a result like that. Zelsis has his own Steel Guard now, could be pretty effective here. Push comes to shove at the big side of TP forward from Rushi, already gets himself there. Zelsis waits. Spike loose, and oh, that's a desperate scenario here for BLG, but why is he popping himself up? What a shot! Narrate peers on him, but Levis is able to find the trade, and again it is down to John. John in a 1 versus 2. John who had to leave his Viper's pit and try and salvage the round at B.
That is bold but necessary from YZ. Finding that trade, and from there Billy maintain it, trading further, getting this advantage, putting all of the pressure on John on a round where both teams economically have so much at stake. Time has dwindled so much due to this heaven rotate.
John's not going to see much here. He has a snake bite, and Rushi just opted for a timing. He knew he had a contingency with his teammate in Baby Door, so goes for it and puts that one to bed a little bit earlier. Billy, 2 rounds in a row, stringing them up. Alpha Sen, this gets complicated. They're definitely going to be forced down to a low buy.
Spike down.
Kind of an awkward first
Wow.
engagement. Zelsis does a great job isolating one fight. YZ goes for the most mental trade attempt possible and pulls it off. Coach Kaplan is feeling forced to call a timeout at this point. Certainly cannot blame him. That was a round of the utmost importance for the half.
I'm glad you highlight that YZ moment as the sheer wall came up. I thought it was curtains for Billy.
It looked like it was cooked. I like the entry in the side before that. You have Rusha teleporting to dark cover so they can double face, but he wasn't close enough to actually get the trade on the Baby Door. If YZ didn't do that and Zelsis is able to tuck back, complexion of the round is entirely different.
And he heard from Coach Kaplan. Couldn't do much more, but just say, well played
Capek pengen
to Billy.
kelihatan.
You know, talking about these teams, Kaplan has often said, look, it's really
Sini
hard to get a
Discord.
read on Chinese opponents coming into these games. When we first hit the server, we have to start with ourselves,
Kelihatannya.
and then we have to find a way to adapt. And you can see that's been a whole process, right? Sen sort of had to adapt as much as they could on Icebox and couldn't
Main
quite
stream
get there.
kali
It
ya.
just took too long.
Anjing capek
Kaplan
banget.
said it, too little, too late. Now though, these teams have
Baru
much
stream
more of a feel for
YouTube
one another.
bentar.
But there's no accounting for moments like that from YZ, popping himself up with an op in the B site. It's bizarre, but it's the brand of a Valorant that Billy like to roll with.
Out of that timeout, Sun have 4 players ready to go to fight towards A. And on a scrappy buy like this, where you have some stingers, if Zelsis finds an opportune moment to use that Steel Garden, that could be enough to win them the round. They have full A control, and with all of that noise being made easy,
Gimana, Mbak?
call for
Baca
Billy to
timeline
get this free B
timeline.
site.
Now, no Sting is now looking a little bit awkward at the periphery of the map. TP, I mean, ultimate forward from Rusia in the B. They were convinced they'd have that one dead to rights, and they went wrong. Sen here have to look for a way to employ
Anjir aku kopi kak.
Stinger's
Gak
Sheriffs
ngaruh
and
kopinya
this
anjir.
singular Bulldog. Line up for Zekin.
Dipus
Double
dong.
swing that outwits him. Mind you, that operator has been maintained. Even though YZ went down previously, so it should be a comfortable
Kena yuk.
end to the round for Billy. They've got all players up. They've still got util to spend Sentinels. Probably don't want to feed them too much more old economy.
Will say that Billy would love to hang on to these guns. They still have a couple players at really low cash.
Anjir.
Okay.
Mantap naik.
Snap from K-Knight. Finally able to get on the board in this round.
Taking stock of things, though. We had that timeout from Sentinels. They've had a chance to sort of consider how they build into this gun round. 3 defense side rounds, acceptable, probably. Need to go big here.
Yeah, they index heavily and just going for that 4-person rubble fight, praying that that's where Billy are going to be headed. But it ends up being a very standard situation on Lotus Attack where you have one player kind of floating towards that A main. You hear, wait, they're using like 3-4 different pieces of utility. All right, just go elsewhere. That's very common to be occurring on this Lotus Attack. Why is he still playing with this operator?
Where are you?
This is definitely an inflection point in the first half, round 9. See Sentinels finally get
Nice.
some rifles under their belts, but there's that
Betul.
operator punishing these contact peaks. It ended up being a 1-for-1.
Been a lot of early trades in this half, just like that.
Look at
in the
where
meantime,
John is playing. So far back.
picking up a lot towards this A site, but again, you know, they can just feel fairly content to play this for the retake when they still do have that steel guard and have the potential to collapse into that site off the back of it. But now Sen want to get back in, entrenching the site, anchoring positions now that they're doubled up. They have the read on the situation. Obviously, Billy making a lot of noise. They want to execute Center, getting over here, Ray. No one to trade onto him. Finds the advantage for Zen.
And that was all before a Nightfall came down. Sentinels take the risk of being susceptible to that in order to have a player posted forward to get an easy kill. Now the momentum starting to peter off. YC has to just skirt around that Razor Vine, and yeah,
Wah, kayak
Trigger the
gimana,
shield
Bob?
wall needs to try and find a way to use this op.
30
How
seconds
far
left.
will this madman push with the op in the waterfall?
Has he heard
Nge-push.
this? No, there's a player making noise behind.
Anjir, dapat.
Okay, rewarded and not punished. Two
Wih,
players from Sentinels
lamun
quickly try and
Celsius.
spring to attention. No horse presence for the defenders. YZ is going to be permitted
Nggak ada yang lihat
to
waterfall dong.
push up here again.
Di sini sama saya.
He catches
Oh, I thought
his
it-
second kill right now.
Deep
The
in him.
Nightfall could
Side.
certainly be enough to win this round.
Bang wanted to check the site. It's unclear if he got any information
Nggak
about
ada
where
yang lihat
YZ is set up.
waterfall.
Okay, the Nightfall, but lately he
Wah,
finally
Nightfall-nya
gets
mantap.
out the cave there.
Nightfall-nya mantap, anjir.
Player standing.
Able to
Wih,
spray two
ya
of them
itu.
down.
Ya, tapi
Narrate has
nek
to challenge
di
YZ
shorty.
here. Blast pack to try and disrupt. Shorty in hand. He knows exactly where he's
Wah, GG.
Drops
Oh,
Narrate
perwan.
like a sack of potatoes.
Bagus,
A
bagus.
2v3
Pas banget,
clutch.
anjir,
He's in
itu.
an awkward spot where the op
Ulti.
still
Ulti
converts.
Nefit.
He is just a fearless maniac
Kena
on
semua.
that round. The push into
Kita
waterfall,
Anjing.
adjusting to kill Zelsis, gets the free sight for the team.
Nggak kelihatan loh.
And by team, I mean
Cepat dah sini dik ya.
he's the only one. He gets over
Kepala.
there. What a win! What a win! Brutal for Sentinels. They're going to force into this next round too when we get back into things, and it's left them with just a stinger for Zelsis. Not ideal. A lot of light armors.
And this time they're more than happy to bully their way out into rubble, Billy, and there's nobody here. It's another round where Sen only have John on this side of the map, and he's playing very far back.
That poison cloud going to go forward to cover up the view from the stairs. Intentions of going through tree right now. Sen, they're trying to be fast on the pivot. They've got a second here. Narrate wants to get back sight again. Assist John when the pressure is coming in. When he's blinded up by the paranoia.
Jangan api, jangan gitu.
Quickly,
Ya ampun.
brought down by Narrate. He's watching it from that high ground. John gets absolutely saved.
Orata.
That's the one with the op here. Having to peer out from tree. Sen, I'm not going to offer up any freebies. Look where that spike is. That is going to be an extremely oppressive scenario that Billy have to fight into.
Bentar.
Dev has to do it by pushing
Ya
up with
ampun.
the operator.
This round should simply be unwinnable for Billy. There should not be any way.
Sick round from Narrate. Wyatt, he was the standout. Sentinels in their
Kena
last
hit
game.
kok.
Won't be able to do more than 3 here, but should be enough. Okay. All of a sudden, John brought down. Viper's Peak going to be deployed by Neff, but he still needs to plant
Gak nih shorty
Steel
kira.
Garden. And he has a shorty inside the pit. Not the worst scenario for him. He'll
Timas.
wait this out. Maybe look for a timing to swing out of the wall, and he's found bang.
Wah.
Celsius.
Oh my god.
Quells what would have been a
Winnable
ridiculous
itu mang,
uprising
terlalu
for
gak
that
nge-whiff
solo
terakhirnya.
Viper.
Lompat kan.
Sentinels, they managed to claw their 4th round, but it's another costly one. They yet to stabilize the economy, but Narrate here is able to find 3. Protect
Wah,
John.
gila.
Down A.
Second picked up the op at the end of the round.
Oh my god. You could see that clutch happening. Oh my god. Like I said, unwinnable. But Neff made me believe for a second.
I mean, he commits that solo Viper's pit to play from.
And he got that crazy timing after his primary was jammed. Finally, Zelsis rips that Steel Garden and does get the value out of it. They were in an advantage situation, but given their economic state, that was a must-win round. You gotta commit it, you gotta convert, and they do just that.
Sentinels have conditioned a weaker A-side presence of the map now, with consecutive rounds of just John being there and playing on upper A-side. They might look to throw a
Nampak.
variation that has Narrate come back, play Tree, and Odin by. A few options here, as Billy have now tested that A-side a couple of times consecutively.
I'm wondering too if they're going to reinvest into this operator. They've been loving using it. That time, obviously, right, they threw it to Neff because they wanted YZ to be able to get deep into the site. Narrate was just a hero. Absolute hero. Specifically for John, who was looking absolutely doomed until that lovely 3-piece was found. And Narrate topping the board. He was the MVP
Pak
of
bohong,
this same
pegel
team
banget.
of
Aduh.
their win against Wolves. He got them back into the game with a crucial clutch on split. Phenomenal play from him, and he is picking it up for them right now to try and get into playoffs.
Bilibili have reinvested in that op as you speculated, Wyatt. And yeah, early looks at 8. Narrate has come back here with the Odin.
Doesn't spot wisely, just ends up going a little bit short, so he wants to wait for this dark cover to fall, hoping that someone is going to go for the common jump peek, and it does happen, but Narrate was not too overexposed. Often players do it more towards the middle, but he was a little bit off to that left side, and I think that saved his life.
Why is he unable to react quickly enough? Okay, shield wall to dissuade a push off of the C site. That is actually where Zekken is set up. He does want to try and put himself where the action is. But whether that means he'd actually push off from C in the direction of the attackers remains to be seen. There's Rubble presence, the threat of the Odin. All the util coming out from Bang and Narrate here have definitely slowed BLG up. So Wisey opts to try and hold a B line. Viper Wall will cut him off. Still guarded.
Get that C-side free,
Tenang,
Sen try and actually pull back in here. They have a few players here.
Wah.
Wow, look at this pivot from Billy.
Aduh,
They
aduh.
have to go through the
Anjir,
thorn,
dapat
but
dong.
wants to swing off. Big trades coming through, but now the site is taken. Spike should be able to be planted, but Sen have other ideas.
Now Wisey decayed very, very low. Sentinels don't really follow up on the Nightfall instantly. Simply choose to get in position.
Yeah, cut
Wee.
off by some of those mollies. A thorn to the ground. They're going to do some damage tonight, and
Wah,
actually nets the
net
kill.
kena.
Now with the show
Yo, dibalas gak tuh?
Wisey with a pop shot now. He's in the thick of things. In the heart of the Maelstrom, Wisey wants to push up, and with this
Dapat
up
dua.
shot,
Yo, gila.
devastating
strike
impact from Wisey.
Gile.
Oh,
Anjir,
nice
Wisey.
from Delsus is able to interfere.
He gets the damage through the wall.
Ya udah.
Celsius down to 10.
Kakile punyamu ya?
A little bit of regen.
Apa?
And he is going to get
Kakak
out
Kakile
of
punyamu ya
there.
apa?
No
Same.
cash
Ah.
left. Needs
Ala,
to
enggak.
save
Ya.
this.
Ah.
Wisey
Mana aku
is
kasih
a
lebih cepat, no.
menace.
And again, it's just an absurd operator pushes onto that B side like we saw those few rounds ago
Keren,
where he
ya.
saves it for Bilibili.
Itu avatar keren banget.
Wisey with a masterclass
Plus 2 orang.
on subverting expectations. Sen still struggling to adapt to this duelist.
Seeing in that instance too, some of the power that even an attack device provides.
Kasih lebih cepat
Whereas
notis soalnya.
Itu ya.
those thorns being forward made it so that no one can
Anjir,
really stay
itu
up
loh.
and try to fight off of
Gagal
the
ulti
Nightfall.
dibalas gagal ulti loh.
And I mean,
Wah.
second denying the showstopper is outrageous. And then somehow he tops it a mere few seconds later by pushing into heaven solo and gets a collapse.
John never had a chance to get his gun up.
He will never slow down. He is ruthless as a duelist. Intentions for Bilibili to take Mound early here.
4 defense side rounds is going to feel uncomfortable for Sentinels, but it is enough.
Wisely now just one orb away from getting the showstopper.
Delsus here
Waduh,
operates
gak
on
enak,
neutral, that's Levius down.
Aduh.
Ooh, this boy, he's mad. Zelsus got the dog inside him.
Spike down.
Takes 3 just as BLG hoping to swoop in and get a nice 8-round halved. He has thrown the stick in the smoke, so they've gone over the handlebars.
Damn, that play genuinely looked angry. Some fury on the defense there from Zelsis. He looked so locked in. It's all on Rusha in a near impossible situation. Zekken still has Satis to get back in. He can just send it, distract, while everyone else will collapse onto him. They have plenty of options here.
Bang there's having to deal with him in the end. So all things considered, respectable from Sentinels, but at moments you've noticed them struggle with the tempo and just with some of the individual inclinations of Bilibili. A very tight half here and everyone getting locked in. You mentioned it. Looked like Angie Zelsis there on that seaside, looking to try and stop BLG in their tracks. It's been quite the series so far, and it promises to be an explosive finale, so stick around. One of these teams will be headed to playoffs on the other side of this map.
Sulim. Nggak tahu itu sih. Bisa jadi map siapa aja. Apa? Nggak usah. Apa botnya? Oke.
Anjir, capek duda aku.
To 7-5, first half on Lotus. The Sentinels start on the defense side, get themselves a crucial pistol, and then struggle somewhat to convert off that. Definitely put to the sword on multiple occasions by YZ, and also someone who had a real standout showing by Levius with a ridiculous MasterCard Thrifty where he's able to find multiple kills onto that B site with the Ghost. The guy is looking dynamic on this Vice.
On the opposing side, Zelsis was playing very, very well towards the end, shutting down some of those executes, getting a ton of value. I think it's so interesting, though, with this Coinbase Econ report to look at how much value YZ was getting from his heavy investment into the op on attack, which is something I wasn't expecting from him specifically as a player, but you just don't see it very often on Lotus, and certainly not with a Raze when your job is getting in deep, but still able to find that bang for his buck, spending it on that weapon, even despite having tied for the most deaths on his team. He's still getting value. The op absolutely paid off, as we saw, and I'm interested to see how much he's going to try to pick that up on defense, because Billy, they've won the majority of the pistols in this series, and even this first half when they lost, they won in that round to Eco. If they get the op rolling for him on defense, that could be the catalyst for them making it into the playoffs, for YZ making it into the playoffs for a second time at an international event.
Bener-bener harus kalau dari jauh. Tapi kalau udah defender itu enak, tapi kalau pakai operator defender itu enak. Ngedefense dari jauh, jadi ini tahu sendiri bisa lah. Tapi kalau udah musuhnya udah planting, retake pakai operator sulit.
Sulit sekali, Pak.
All comes down to how you can capitalize on that distribution of defenders. Let's get rolling, folks. Here's your round number 13. Sentinels on the attack.
Launch over the top for this duo of Sen to work forward on C, but when the orb is tapped, they want to swing off this paranoia, presumably crunch through the door even. These two players, Bang and Zekin, could be a real danger. Here it comes.
Like the trap, Rochelle come down by Zekin, who didn't get a follow-up, and Livius is there.
Pushed up so far that he was, luckily for him, able to dodge that paranoia. Now Sen, they are pivoting towards this A side where BLG have drifted. They are in the right positions at the moment, giving up C. Nef weak though, backside, going to be challenging to anchor against the
This is pretty quick moves though from Sentinels up onto the A side. No upper presence yet for the defenders, and Nef gives as good as he gets.
He'll take 1-for-1 with that low HP.
K-Knight now straight to drop. Here comes that attack side Viper ball now. It's a little bit annoying. YZ can't see past it. K-Knight might need to be activated to disrupt a potential plant. So the paint shells had the intended effect.
Wah, dapat timing.
K-Knight flare.
Wah, dapat timing.
And they are both very low, below 60.
30 seconds left.
With the sheriff, but K-Knight.
What the fuck? Kenapa dodok?
Zaddy is home.
Zelsis is determined to win. You can see it from his disposition on his face since that last round of the first half. He is getting serious. This is not funny, whimsical Zelsis. He is here to win. He is hungry, especially for this team after that disappointing finish that they had at the first national this year in Bangkok. They want to come back.
Iya, makanya dodok malah kebapean ngeker.
Why are you going here? Why are you going here?
No, what the fuck?
Cut that one off at the right time. Two pistols here for Sentinels on this map. And it's an A site that is utterly bereft of defenders.
Las ngamuk lah.
In the first
Dodok
half,
pisan.
Sen won the pistol, but lost in this exact situation. If they hadn't, we're looking at a very different game. Billy were able to gain so much early momentum for their economy off of that. Okay,
Zelsis
in danger, just wants to stay alive. Oh, they're chasing, even though he is the player with just the sheriff.
Finally, I think Sentinels have been able to throw enough at Billy to cause him to simmer down.
And that's an easy call now for the rest of the team to just get into the A site. Zelsis feeling all of that pressure.
Suaranya kok
light on the opposite side of the map.
They are so patient about it.
Kelas master
Here's a
kok
plant,
kayak
John
gini
gets it down.
broadcastingnya.
Billy playing second fiddle, just trying to catch up. And now that much more than frenzy goes.
Outlaw ya. Wah, ngeri.
Neff will remain tucked here most likely. This would allow the game to become even. Narrate would love to get something for this Outlaw.
Sewapar Neff anjir.
ROI farming.
Ih.
And he might get something.
Ih, tuh timing anjir.
Neff though doesn't overcommit.
Ya, gara-gara krote rek anjir.
And will handle the interloper. If only
Gara-gara krote klik mangan tai.
Spam is Ekin says, something to be had here, and he's right.
Gara-gara krot anjir.
3 kills with the Stinger. Only Levius to survive, only to perish to the blast. And now, we have ourselves an even game.
Second would have loved to have gone for a little bit more. The showstopper on the attack side with his traditional Lotus look.
Timingnya kena ya lah, krote bengok-bengok anjing lah.
Batin apa nenek tinggalnya gini ya. Wah, kayak lu.
Bilibili though, again, the pistol came down to a 1 versus 1. They sort of knew they'd be here after that clutch was lost.
Now Consent convert on their own bonus. They are ready to fight out towards this A side early. It's light from Bilibili. Tucking to the box is YZ right now. And actually getting a lot of reinforcements through B. Look at this, Bilibili, they want to fight it and bang knows
dipush
he
anjir.
needs to run.
Sentinels got out in time though. Bilibili want to chase this, but just how far will they go? Not as far as lobby apparently. Now the look is over towards B.
And Descent want to accelerate elsewhere, get into the site. Do they
B.
really try to get into B?
Maru
No,
lagi
now
di
they
C.
certainly cannot, but maybe they'll pick up the pace, continue that, getting through door into the C side, but they'll
This
have
sheer
to
wall.
contend with that sheer, yeah, with this setup from Levius.
Doggedly.
Kena.
Bilibili been defending and Narrate's not able to trigger the sheer wall. That is still in play.
Wah, cancel gagal.
Sentinel gonna run low on time here.
That is painful. Orb is now being recovered onto Zekin, 2 away from the showstopper, 50 seconds on the clock. They have no map control at the moment.
They have though. Look at the util on Bilibili's side. It's really limited. Just that smoke from Rushia. There's a horn for Knight. They've drawn it all out, but at what cost?
So now with the wall down, you do have Rushia with that Guardian on this A side, just jiggle peeking.
30
Now,
seconds left.
Calling it.
Knows what the situation is. Wisely, does he try to timing this? He goes through the
Waduh.
Vulnerable enough. He's too easy to bring down. And Sentinels here have gotten exactly what they were looking for.
Wah,
Drawing
kok
Bilibili out of
gitu
their defensive
naik.
lines. Straight out into the sunlight.
Planted.
And now Bilibili realized, man, we were so active, so good at responding to these early probes. And they overheated just a little bit, losing to the send bonus. Not just losing to the bonus, Wyatt, but allowing it to be a flawless round for the attackers. That is backbreaking.
They maintain their focus towards that CB side. Really weren't able to take advantage of the low clock on account of it just being Rushia towards A. As you mentioned prior in the round too, just extracting all of that defensive utility out of Bilibili to the extent they've just had a dark cover. That was it.
There's not much more that Rushia could do except peek out, see what was happening. But he couldn't hang.
It's just great calling from Sen. They worked the entire map, get back to that light A side in time. Worked it so well, credit to John. Wisely bold in that situation. This just feels like he needs to help Rushia. Hopefully the attention will be on his teammate. But John was ready for that. And it's made all too easy with the vulnerable.
See, things are pretty restrained. You mentioned it. Zelsa's looking
Jelas time
absolutely
out lah.
determined to have a clean victory here on this Lotus map.
Jadi bisa
Not
kuat
surprisingly,
coy.
Bilibili throwing their heads back in dismay, called themselves a timeout. In a round where they're in a
Harusnya
very
udah bisa kebaca tadi.
precarious spot.
Nge-touch
Yeah,
down
they can
B,
sort of force
cuman
into this
nge-fake
round. Looks like that
aja.
might be the plan, but it's a big
Spike-nya
risk
udah
to take at this early stage of the
ke
half.
C.
For Sentinels,
Si
though, it's
Narete ini
straightforward stuff. No
nggak
over
bisa
commitment. They
nge-trigger
weren't able to force
wallnya,
that
terus
shield wall out
balik
on C, right? You see
lagi.
Narrate tried to get it. It didn't end up hurting him. They just bounced on back to A.
Orang
Were
yang
able to
nunggu
execute.
DA
Bilibili just got a
overcommit,
little bit too nervous,
temennya
pushed
belum
too far as
dateng.
individuals took to it. The Wisey
Si
pushed over the volley.
Sentinelnya udah
The
masuk
K9
side,
positioning
tapi
up
si
upper A
Naite
side. Just caught out in the open.
Listen, I'm hoping
mainan
this time
pisau,
as
lebih
well that
tepatnya
Coach
lari
Bale
nggak
for
pakai
BLG
senjata.
can hold his nerve, keep calm with the team and give them the
Itu
optimal
kesalahan
plan,
sih.
because
Temennya
he was
udah pada mati nggak
furious
langsung
after
pakai
that
senjata
pistol
dia.
round loss when we cut to the coach booth.
Harusnya langsung pakai.
And now they're going to have to deal with the showstopper that Zekken has gotten up very early in this half. A crucial round. BLG, big investment here.
And already, Sentinels here grouped on his A side. Pretty standard. We have Zellsis obviously watch C. He's got the Outlaw in hand to punish a push up.
He push.
And BLG, they want this fight again. Zekken's got hands. Russia finds out the hard way. YZ doesn't fancy any of it. He's only
Smokernya
playing
cuman
classic here.
smoker.
Such a weird assortment of guns.
Yeah, it is
Hyper.
bizarre, right? I mean,
Nggak bisa gitu kalau rotate DC.
700. Maybe these rifles can make something happen. Matter of fact, both of them have looked like intentions of maybe pushing out a P, but that's not going to be the case for the defense. Instead of inserted narrate over towards Rubble. Potential fight against YZ where he's highly favored. Far superior gun.
And they're going to use him to try and sell this.
Yeah, they even throw a dark cover towards stairs, and it's working. Oh god, they're all
Loh, kena info lah, kena efek info.
Billy, I mean, they can't take too many risks if they think there's a stack opportunity. They've got to take it with these weaker weaponry.
And YZ, he just didn't know while that Viper's wall was up how many players actually crossed it.
We'll get this
on
here.
Oh
my goodness, guy! Eyes in the back of his head.
Observernya piye sih?
Very timely swing there from Narrate.
That would have been their way into this round, into a realistic retake, but now and after that, it is certainly not the case.
Observernya mana boyong ngarepe dhewe sih.
Now just happy to post up here in this seaside. Zekken challenging Waterfall. K-Knight forced off the line and low with a Phantom in hand. He likely doesn't want to wager it. And another flawless round on the horizon here for Sentinels.
We are right back to saving.
Good.
K-Knight spoke too soon. Get away, narrate.
Cing, nge-save 2 kali.
This economy for Sen is out of control.
And so it goes. Sentinels get that
Kalau
magic
emang
9 rounds.
Kalau emang busuk deh.
And get this next one, a real inflection
Kalau emang
point.
busuk deh, defender kenapa harus milih attacker duluan ya?
It wasn't K-Knight
Ya
died.
bener sih attackernya dia masuk
Billy
gitu.
who really needed to save
Mana
those
lah.
there. Or able to get away with it.
Attackernya bagus di awal tapi lah
Like I said,
defender
totally
busuk ya kayak sampai juga.
isn't caught. And now, finally, we've gotten to the point for Billy, where this operator that we were talking about so much on attack is economically viable to be picked up for YZ. This is going to have to be one of the half changes for BLG, where it's going to feel like they are absolutely down and out. They've committed everything they've got.
Nice, YZ.
And it pays off for YZ.
It's exactly what they're looking for. The contact move up on B main.
Kawan anjir pakai operator masuk gue maju loh. TD.
Non-committal though in this early approach to the round. They had the spike left behind. They might feel the need to re-clear a little bit that B area before they head elsewhere.
Kecil. Pasti gitu.
Prowler thrown out.
Nggak bisa masuk A, ini kecolong. Nggak ada lurker.
Silently working their way towards Mount when they're
Gini harusnya smoker mainnya safe anjir, nggak kayak tadi. Smoker main smokernya cuma ada di Omen ya. Omen bisa iki sih, bisa agresif. Cuman kurang worth it aja rasanya. Wah mantap banget.
Kena hujan. Wih, satu sekali.
K-Knight and Levi's in no hurry as John can't even get into the site with the spike in hand. An easy cleanup and a great use of the Nightfall there from K-Knight.
A great counter ultimate. They do a nice job getting in, and it did kind of play out as speculated, where that sheer wall not getting procced earlier does kind of awkwardly cut players off. It does force Bang to feel like, I need to teleport up there, I need to get in. And then he's just out in the open.
Bang, yeah, trying to get up on that wall, right?
Just didn't have the opportunity to get the gun out quick enough, actually take the fight. Perfect ultimate usage there. And the op paid off. Everything they wanted to do in that round worked perfectly. YZ is going to mix up the positioning and go towards Mount. All of Sentinels have taken Rubble on the opposite side of the map.
Russia has to play safe, passive, and Bang brought down.
Ya, TV ini kecepatan cok.
To find the trade. Billy responded with this quickly.
Pintunya masih kebuka anjir, dia TV kecepatan.
I think he takes some hits there. Tries to back up. Neff forced away by the snake bite though. Here's a steel garden for the attack side to pave the way
Aduh kena
for a
si
plant.
Knight.
K-Knight had intentions of retreating for a while, and the Steel Garden ensures that. Billy having to go for the full retake.
Wah, stack 3. Harus bener-bener bareng.
Now they know, and they make use of that information to get rid of Zekin, but John is there to find the trade. Nightfall for the attack side now, and Knight doesn't know what's coming. Neff with a wrap from
Aduh kena
John
1
finds his third
doang.
for the round, and YC's op is not the ideal tool for this job. Sentinels back in front, back with a burst of confidence. A fast A-kit plays out the way they drew it up.
Narrates Nightfall that time is used to perfection. Catches up to all of the players.
Ini salah ini. Pintunya belum ketutup udah TP duluan anjir si Rusia.
John swings up when they're dealing with Zekin. Gets the trade on the rope, and the rest of the players are pushing forward. They are all
Harusnya TP ini nggak langsung ke dari ini ya. Dari pintu keluar tree. Harusnya agak dipojokin ke kanan dulu biar nggak kelihatan dari double door, dari door. Si masih kebuka. Harusnya pointerku ada kayak gini. Ya, dari tree sini mana sih tree-nya? Ini. Harusnya pojok di sini dulu dia TP-nya. Nggak kelihatan. Tapi dia langsung ke sini. Langsung ke pintu. Tuh, kalau pintunya kan masih kebuka tadi, ya udah free hit.
He's going to post up deep. Does John try to take this space? I mean, surely a contact push back into main would be a free kill for YZ. You have to imagine.
Do you ever think to re-clear this spot if the attackers are
YZ
so
lihat
close to their side of the map? Shoulder peek.
Kaget ya.
John is lucky to get out of that one alive. Limping away.
Kena kaki
Still
jing.
keeps his weapon in this round.
And knows they've given up so much of that positioning that was possible for YZ. Gets away with his life. Sentinels at 45 seconds are pivoting back towards that BC area, kind of keeping their options open as they're activating that door. The shear wall is still here. They've had trouble dealing with that on some of these prior C executes. It's been tough for them to manage.
Ya ampun.
Not the right way.
Matthews.
Sort of follow up on that haunt. Shear wall is still a problem. Sen don't have a way to safely clear it, to trigger it. They've got to go B.
Not even very much damage actually
Iya,
done.
bakal
We
kebun.
are down to 20 seconds right now. Second satcheling in a couple players on
Wah.
defense. Rusha gets the first and
Wah,
the
dapat lagi
John
satu.
was just so weak.
And there's
Wah,
not much
anjir.
more to gain from this now. Zelsus heading
Wah, nggak
over
bisa
to
ngeplan.
C-side, but shear wall's going to get come up either way. And
Nggak bisa ngeplan.
Narrate steps up, and this
Nggak
is
bisa ngeplan.
that stuff, round for round.
Gelok.
Sen and Billy exchanging haymakers to try and close the map.
Keeping each other honest, that BLG round was critical after reinvesting into the operator.
Anjir.
That would have been
Trackingnya bagus banget sih ini
that would have
Rusia.
put BLG on the eco. They were in the right places in the right times defensively. They do a good job nullifying the attempt from Sentinels to get back into that B site. Zekin in the air,
Terbang.
shot down.
Si Zekin terbang di tracking, kena dong, mati.
Zen, they are struggling dealing with this Vice over at sea. I've got to say, they're not getting that util out earlier, and they're fearing late having to go into it when the clock is getting low. There are those thorns on the ground they have to deal with. Players getting caught off by the shear wall. You know, you can try to timing it where your Omen can TP top box, Zekin can get in, but it's still challenging.
But what is it that forced him to C in the first place? It was YZ pushing up on A, getting aggressive towards Rubble.
And that's exactly what you want to do with this operator. Once you've got it rolling with the Vice on this map, you take control and you just want to force the attackers to have to deal with that powerful defensive utility. You want to just route them into that sort of trap that you have laid on the opposite side of the map, and they pull it off there.
Ngantuk.
So there's got to be a game plan for this early round action that Sen have been opting out of more often than not. Is it another Rubble fight? Maybe try and explore B early and fight through some of that fade util that's been deployed there. All that and more to be answered in just a few moments. You can see that scoreboard. A good start in this half of Sentinels. Converting on the bonus is big. Billy have found their niche in this game. YZ has carved it out, kill by kill with this operator.
In terms of the ult economy, look at BLG. Had that Steel Garden, but they're so close to 3 other ults. And realistically, the only thing that Sen can have on top of the From the Shadows, which is an all too
Itu loh, boleh harusnya nggak usah dihancurin dulu.
fast deep teleport executes.
Tapi YZ ini nge-push gitu.
Down and use that pit to win out a post plant. But even at that, you use the pit, you have to stay in it. Easy Steel Garden. Surely you have the shorty in it, so there are counterplays to the counterplays that are available if we get into a situation like that. But as of right now, it's Billy again.
Emang pilih-pilih emang niatnya
control of that offline deep.
Ambil.
This time Sen have to have a plan for this. They've got to, yep, you can see they've got to be expecting YZ to be on this line.
Seluas mungkin.
First is the Prowler. YZ's far enough away that it
YZ
actually
ini
doesn't
mana?
need to be shot at. Now the second wave, Paranoia thrown in. This is awkward. Zek not affected by it, but the rest of Sentinels are. Now though, time to burst forward. Wall comes down. So does YZ. That's the op out of the game. Russia has to ult from the shadows to TP back to his spawn for safety, and that opens this side of the map up for Sentinels.
Second is taking so much space. Russia wants to get back there, but
completely harusnya udah siap senjata. Lek saya itu udah keambil itu harus siap senjata, bukan kayak lompat-lompat gak jelas kayak gitu anjir.
And he was wrong. Billy now, you notice, yes, picking up these rounds here and there, but because there's been a patchwork of back and forth, it's much harder to justify throwing themselves in a 3v5 scenario with no control of the site.
Berkali-kali tadi naik sekarang Rusia. Lompat-lompat gak jelas anjir di side yang sama, side A. Harusnya minta retake gitu loh. Kalau retake mah retake aja. Maksa banget ambil side secepatnya. Berkali-kali kena gitu.
Will have a much easier time dealing with him. I mean, look, he's just wide out in the open.
And that's how Sentinels realize they
nah, itu lo ngapain itu?
Take control of that operator held position. Use control of util to close the gap.
Terlalu maksa. Kalau nggak bisa langsung masuk head ngedrop dari situ, bisa lewat samping atau drop sebelah kiri tadi.
Do still have the steel guard and YZ's got on the showstopper. He was one away and died.
Nggak bisa maksudnya gitu.
Udah
tahu Zeken masuknya cepet kan.
They need desperately a couple players on horrendous cash, while Sentinels just have a bank to keep buying over and over.
This poison orb is set up to make even just trying to trigger the sheer wall potentially lethal for Sentinels. They can't just duck in there and make it come up.
BLG, they do have that forward position over towards Rebel again. Same two players stacked up. Done a nice job re-clearing them though. Realizing that they're finding more success just working this A side of the map and essentially avoiding this Vice entirely.
Is the defensive showstopper play on the table for YZ here? Prowler out, looking the same as last round. Now with a bit of spray.
Second is fully committed. He's out. He's able to get out.
But again, where to from here? 40 seconds in the round, and they've done nothing about that sheer wall at sea, which has been more than a small nuisance for Sen.
Ini kelihatan gak sih? Tuh kan kelihatan. Ya ampun, nge-weave. Apalah.
Paves the way for a firing line of Sentinels to look at the seaside defenders. Now they've gotten in once again with a two-player advantage. YZ might have to entry this with a showstopper, but Zekit is waiting for him.
Ya ampun.
To make his way out of that B connector. And he's ready for K9 as well. Bring me another, he says, and YZ acquiesces. An easy pick-off once more for the Rays. And it is a dastardly scenario that Russia has to find a way to unravel. And with this Guardian, he's got no choice but just to go for it. Sen encircling him to get away from the blast. Billy might have lost their biggest opportunity to get back in control of this map and series. Russia lucky to get away with his life.
Next round, Billy of course going to have to force up with everything they've got. They still have ultimates. That could turn the tide on a bad buy round to stay in the game. This is Sentinels on match point.
Itu loh, Sinep. Ya ampun.
Start this tournament after an 0-2 at Bangkok, finishing in disappointing fashion.
Harusnya double pick kan, harusnya bisa loh. Yang bawah nge-weave, yang atas ikut nge-weave sekalian. Muter tuh pelurunya, kagak ada yang kena kepala. Geter anjir.
Billy have got a lot to commit into a round like this though.
Kalian lagi nih.
Bang has already gotten pretty far forward.
Mantap Rusia.
The Guardian he maintained from the previous
Timingnya
round.
pas.
Pays dividends.
Boom. Kena anjir.
Showstopper will be avoided. Maybe a little bit quick on the trigger finger is YZ. Ray's ultimate's off the table now.
Charge is able to get a little bit off to the left there from YZ's perspective. Again, this is a situation where you do have Narrate over towards that C-mount side, just controlling the space, ensuring that no one is pushing up. Viper's pit here now.
Viper Speed udah muncul, harusnya gak bisa di-push. Lah Viper Speed agak tembus dikit ya. Agak keluar dikit ya. Oh main ini. Main isolasi side biar gak bisa ngeplan.
Nightfall. Then they could throw that at the pit, Prowler, the Viper, something like that, but it's not an option right now.
So is it a hard force? Hoping to catch a player positioned far forward, like we've seen from YZ in the past, but BLG are actually giving a lot more map control over
30
here.
seconds left.
Now they're going to run into this.
YZ there, jump up.
Ih, ngeri.
Shot through the box, he needs to see over this wall and can't quite, so that's free access now gained by Sentinels. Rushia though is
Anjir.
pure stopping power.
Dapat Rusia.
This time it's a Guardian shot to John QT's cranium.
Tapi kalau nggak bisa ngeplan, wah bener gini. Waduh, duh. Wah elah. Kok bisa nih kayak gitu sih? Dari tadi loh. Dari tadi kayak gitu loh.
Kok marah toh?
Apa ini?
Kok gitu mah yang
dihabisin dong pelurune pas di smoke. Itu patut dipertanyakan sih. Geter mereka.
Habis ini bakal ngepilih. Gila.
Nobody thought that they would be in this game. Expectations were for Sentinels to make it. People thought this was certainly their game.
Terlalu maksa di spray ini racing kayak pertama tadi.
Frankly, was the expectation, but in this fashion, I don't know. Billy made a serious go at it. That Icebox game from them was
anjir jelek banget. Itu kualitas berapa? 1080 loh.
Had some unbelievable highlight reel moments.
Bitrate jelek anjir.
That was definitely the stumbling block for Sentinels, controlling that star player from Billy. Who know is always a problem for teams.
Beneran main jam 3, jam setengah 3 main.
Figure out how to answer that A-side operator play. They get that control, they util up eventually. They can push YZ over. Let's send it down now to Gen Lee down on the stage.
Harusnya paling ditunggu kan Pepper aja. Kalau nggak tahu mau nonton kok nggak. Harusnya setengah jam. Jam 3, jam 3-an mainnya.
Mari subuh.
I may have you over here. Yes, for sure.
Belum pasti anjir.
Lotus was
Restream besok. What the hell?
Definitely.
Enggak ada ya.
For sure, yeah.
Apa ya, lihat lagi yang apa?
Ya lihat sendiri aja, nggak usah di streamingin kalau gitu. Aku kalau mau nonton mungkin sekitaran RRQ mungkin. RRQ aku masih pengen nonton, pengen lihat RRQ Master kayak gimana.
Very happy of our result.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened in between Icebox and Sunset? Because it felt like after Icebox, you guys locked
thank you
in.
dah untuk streaming malam ini guys. Agak mengecewakan aku lihat permainan mereka untuk Billy. Dia getar aja. Oke.
Well, speaking of demons, we have other demons waiting for you in the playoffs.